Hello, welcome to Inside the Americas. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Horror in southern Mexico with the discovery of a mass grave, and shock as it seems like a link between gangs and the police may have led to the bodies of students reportedly buried inside. For generations, Bolivia has been a divided society, but that's slowly starting to change. You're due to meet an indigenous pioneer in race relations. And changing times in the U.S. as well. A move from the U.S. Supreme Court makes gay marriage legal in some 30 American states. First to Mexico, where officials are facing growing international pressure to solve the disappearance of 43 students. They vanished after they were attacked by police linked to a drug gang. Now, 2 suspected members of a gang have confessed to killing students in the town of Iguala in the southern Guerrero state. They say the city's security chief is implicated in what began as a clash between police and students, turned into a kidnapping, and ended with the discovery of a mass grave. Nicholas Rushworth explains.
Mexican police discovered a mass grave in the countryside around Iguala last weekend. Inside, 28 charred corpses. 2 hitmen belonging to a local drug cartel say the corpses are of students, part of a group kidnapped on the 26th of September. They admit to killing 17 of them and point the finger at the local police chief, now on the run.
The detainees have clearly stated that Iguala's public security chief, Francisco Salgado Valladares, gave the order to intercept the students, and the order to kill them went to a man known as Chucky, leader of the Guerreros Unidos gang.
Authorities say it will take at least 2 weeks to carry out DNA tests. Families of the students haven't been given access to the mass grave and refuse to believe they are dead.
I can't cope anymore. I want my son back. I want him alive as I knew him. I'm not looking for justice. I only want my dear son to return.
In all, 43 students from this rural college were kidnapped 2 weeks ago. They were training to be teachers at an institution known as a hotbed of radical protests. Police and gang allies shot at them as they returned by bus from a demonstration against job discrimination in the region. 2 students who managed to escape spoke to France 24.
They got them all off the bus and took them away to their pickup van. The students protested and demanded to be freed, saying they were only students. Police told them to stay silent and told them they didn't have the right to speak, and they hit them.
There have been 30 arrests. Aside the local police chief accused, Iguala's mayor is also on the run. One hypothesis is that the violence may be in some way linked to the mayor's wife, giving a speech at the time of events. Mexico's federal forces have now replaced the local team. Mexico's president, Enrique Peña Nieto, vows a full investigation.
Well, it was a surprise first-round result in the presidential election in Brazil. Left-leaning incumbent Dilma Rousseff came first in the vote with 42%, but her challenger in the second round will be business favorite Aécio Neves. He beat out the woman many thought would become the first black president of Brazil, Marina Silva. She brought in just over 21%. The big question now is, will her backers vote for the president they know or for change? And in Bolivia, the country's first indigenous president, Evo Morales, is running for a 3rd term in the election there this weekend. He's the country's first democratically elected indigenous president, and he looks set to sweep the election once again. Bolivia has become more and more accepting of its indigenous population over the years, but things are still far from perfect. We went to meet one young indigenous woman who found a way to go for a degree in higher education without sacrificing her traditions.
Nancy is in her last year of medical school in the Bolivian city of Sucre. The daughter of a farmer, she'll be one of Bolivia's first indigenous young women to qualify as a doctor. But she's an exception. Though indigenous people make up the majority of the population, higher education has only been readily accessible to people in cities who mostly descend from Europeans. Universities are trying to change this by giving financial support to students like Nancy, but she still has to fight prejudice.
Other students told me a few times, you should dress differently, you should wear trousers. Why are you keeping your traditional skirts? Our clothes don't make us more or less intelligent, do they?
An anti-discrimination law came into force in 2010. Nancy says she can see attitudes towards the indigenous population changing slowly.
We used to think we would be discriminated against and that it was better not to go. And that fear influenced us and prevented us from getting a higher education.
Perhaps the major turning point for Bolivia's indigenous population was the victory of Evo Morales, a leftist from the Aymara nation, in the 2006 presidential election.
There have been a lot of changes. The rural population migrated en masse to the cities. Society is more accepting of people as they are, no matter their religion or the way they dress. I think it's the result of the country's evolution in terms of integrating different cultures in the cities.
Nancy is the top student in her class and hopes to become a pediatrician. Meanwhile, she's a pioneer in race relations in what was, for generations, a divided society.
Now, never has the U.S. Supreme Court said so much while saying so little. This week, the justices refused to rule on a series of gay marriage cases, but in so doing, they directly cleared the way for 30 American states, over half the country, to make homosexual unions legal. Nicholas Rushworth explains.
Dearly beloved, we have gathered together to join this woman and this woman in the holy state of matrimony.
A very special moment for Erica and Jennifer.
Kiss your bride.
They drove into Arlington, Virginia to get their marriage license in what was a supreme day for gay marriage.
Today, I hope I can sign a license issued by the Commonwealth of Virginia, which authorized me to perform marriages, but I have not yet been able to do this for a same-gender couple, and I am just thrilled today.
Gay rights got a boost after the Supreme Court, in a surprise decision, rejected appeals from 5 states seeking to maintain their gay marriage ban. That move effectively means gay people can legally tie the knot in 30 states.
This is the outcome that we have hoped for. It is the outcome we have fought for, and it is the outcome that the Constitution requires.
What is a celebration for some with this Supreme Court ruling is a setback for others opposing gay marriage, such as this Baptist minister and lobbyist.
The bad news from our perspective is that these states have been denied the opportunity to defend their marriage laws in the highest court in the land. The good news is that the Supreme Court does not seem to be as eager to issue a sweeping ruling redefining marriage as many observers seem to think they were.
A turnaround on gay marriage has been taking place in the U.S. in recent years, with approval in court cases, state legislatures, and opinion polls.
Really, it feels quick here in the end, but there are generations of people and suffering and pain that preceded this. A lot of people who deserve a lot of credit for being open and honest with who they are.
The gay camp then savoring a victory with nationwide marriage equality in sight.
California is now facing its worst drought in 500 years. Wildfires have been raging, and the state is now using inmates to help professional firefighters on the ground. Those inmates work 24-hour shifts in the extreme heat, carrying 45 pounds of gear and walking miles at a time. A workforce that's almost free and that can help the state save millions of euros. Our correspondents in California went to meet some of them.
These men are helping battle wildfires in their orange inmate outfits. 4,000 of the volunteers are sent to California's fire lines to back up professional firefighters.
Should be saturated in there.
To be in this program, the inmates have to be sentenced to less than 5 years in prison, such as Amir, who's jailed for drug trafficking.
I know there's a little bit more freedom out this way, you know what I mean? We're supposed to be behind the wall. We eat a whole lot better. That's one of the pluses, and we get out of it.
The problem, the state of California only pays the inmates 1.6 euros for a 24-hour shift to fight fires in the extreme heat. That's much less than the 27 euros an hour earned on average by professional firefighters in the state.
I can't say it's worth it, but the experience is worth it. The pay is not worth it, but the experience is worth it.
And yet these inmates are risking their lives in the same way. Some openly criticize the program and call it exploitation.
Just because they lose their rights doesn't mean that they necessarily should lose their life. The choice is either doing a really dangerous job for low pay but being a little more free, or being in an institution that, you know, again, is violent, dangerous, where you have no freedom, and you're giving this sort of false choice.
In this base camp that's half prison, half fire station, they're constantly training new recruits to fight wildfires.
The first 4 people coming off the bus are in charge of the chainsaws. They'll be tooling out behind the bus.
There's an emergency. California is facing the worst drought in its history.
Got it. Yeah, they need them, and we'll rotate crews up and down the state. You know, basically it's from the border of Mexico up to the Oregon border is what we cover.
The state priority is to reduce the costs, and this program saves about 80 million euros a year. But the inmates also find their groove. For each day on the fire line, they get 2 days of remission. They live outdoors all year long and learn a new profession.
We can somehow find something to do when we get out, to have something that we could feel like we have some kind of purpose.
But the conservation program doesn't always lead to real jobs. When they come out, only 7% of these men will have the opportunity to become professional firefighters.
Well, that's all the time we have for this Inside the Americas. We'll see you again next week for all the news from north to south.